Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta, and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Leader warns against U.S. intervention in the conflict with Israel. Nearly 24 Philippine officials stranded in Israel safely reach Jordan. And it's final. Nippon Steel acquires U.S. Steel in a massive $14 billion deal. We begin with an update on the Middle East conflict. U.S. President Donald Trump has not yet decided whether Washington will engage militarily. His previous demand for Iran's unconditional surrender was rejected by Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who warned that U.S. intervention would cause irreparable damage. Russian President Vladimir Putin said he refuses to even discuss the possibility of the U.S. targeting Iran's supreme leader, a claim Trump himself has rejected, although Israel already pushed it. In Iran, Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian says their military actions are purely in self-defense, but the country remains open to diplomacy. On to a humanitarian update. 21 Philippine officials who were previously stranded in Israel have now safely crossed into Jordan. The Philippine Embassy in Jordan facilitated the border crossing, with Ambassador Wilfredo Santos greeting them and helping secure transit visas. This movement was made possible through close coordination between the Philippine embassies in Tel Aviv, Amman, and representations with the Israeli government. The embassy in Jordan is also expected to receive the first group of Filipino workers exiting Israel in the coming days. These OFWs will be repatriated according to President Marcos's instructions. The Israel-Iran conflict may be far from our shores, but its ripple effects hit close to home, from rising fuel prices to the safety of our overseas Filipino workers. To help us navigate this complex situation, we're joined by Israeli Ambassador Ilan Floss. He'll share his key insights on what Filipino investors, exporters, and families should be watching in the weeks ahead. Good morning, Ambassador Floss, and thank you for being here with us.
Good morning, Maiki. Good to be with you once again. Thank you.
Yeah, last we spoke, it was one war. Now there are two. So let's get to it. Ambassador Floss, we'll start with an overview of this new conflict. Israel and Iran have been regional rivals for decades. What exactly is unfolding on the ground right now, and why should Filipinos be paying close attention?
Maybe just to say one word, it's important to remember that until 1979, until the revolution, we had very close relations with Iran then. It was a secular regime, different regime, and Israel and Iran were actually very, very close. Of course, new regime, different agendas, and unfortunately complicated efforts of the Iranian regime that led to the situation today. The conflict erupted because of Iranian goal or plan to annihilate the state of Israel. And this is something that we have heard again and again from the Iranian leadership. So they had a vision, they had a goal, and if you combine it with their actions, which were the nuclear program, which were the weaponization of the program, which were the ballistic missile program, and all of them have been accelerated in the last few years, and especially in the last few months, together with the failure of the diplomatic process and the negotiations with Iran to the level of non-compliance with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. You put everything together, you understand Israel has an imminent threat to its very existence, and this is why Israel had to attack to remove those immediate threats, which were what's happening today, where we are attacking. When we are focusing in our attacks only on military facilities and people who are connected to the nuclear program and to the ballistic missile program. This is happening until now, and of course, Iran is retaliating and is launching missiles and drones against Israel, including a few hours ago Israelis, there was an alert. Israelis went into the shelters and the safety room. This is about 4.5 hours ago, but thank God the missiles were intercepted, and also there were a few drones that were intercepted, and there was no damage in Israel.
Ambassador Floss, Israel's goal is to stop Iran from having nuclear capabilities. Since launching your campaign last week, what progress have you made to make sure that they don't have these capabilities?
It's important to say we had to remove the military or a possibility that they will have a nuclear bomb. That's very different. The nuclear plan was not for civilian research and was not for energy. This is very obvious, and even the IAEA had its different reports on the hidden agenda or the hidden activities of Iran. So that's very important to note. Since Friday last week, first of all, we had to remove all the anti-aircraft systems that Iranian had in place, and this was done very, very quickly. And since then, we have been attacking mostly Western Iran and Tehran in order to basically destroy the facilities, the infrastructure, which has been really, the attacks were very effective and a big amount, and I cannot give you the exact amount. I'm not part of the operations themselves, but a big amount of this capability of launching missiles have been destroyed. Regarding the nuclear plan, we targeted also the scientists who were leading the nuclear program, and they have been eliminated. This is an important part of a program. You need the expertise. It's not something so simple. So we eliminated both the leadership who was really implementing the program, of course, and planning, and also part of the facilities.
The world is watching with bated breath, Ambassador Floss. Apart from avoiding a wider conflict, of course, nuclear war is something that no one wants to see. At this point, Ambassador Floss, how important is the U.S.'s military support?
I think, first of all, it's important to say that we have removed an imminent threat to the existence of the State of Israel, but we have removed a threat to the world at large. I mean, the missile range of Iran today is 2,000 kilometers, which means that also Europe, it's in the range, and of course, not to mention the neighboring countries. So it's a threat to the stability and peace of the region, and to that, of course, of the world. So I do believe that end of this conflict, actually, I think we'll see a more stable region, which means a more stable world. Regarding the U.S., of course, I need to let the U.S. talk on behalf of the U.S. government. The U.S. is a very important strategic ally of the State of Israel, and there's a lot of coordination and collaboration. The attacks are being done by the Israeli Defense Forces, by the IDF alone.
Yeah, no one knows what the U.S. is going to do or how far they're going to go. Trump overnight said that the U.S. may or may not join the war. Can Israel win this war, the two wars it's fighting as a whole, without U.S. support?
Well, as you can see, we have decided to launch those attacks without the involvement of the U.S. because we have to protect ourselves. We have, thank God, we have a very quality and we have good technologies, and the Air Force is operating. What will be, again, as I said, I cannot predict what will be the U.S. next moves, but Israel will make sure to remove the threat and to eliminate as many components of this threat.
Okay, understood. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has offered to help mediate. Is there a realistic pathway to peace at this junction?
I think it's we realize that this operation is not an operation of 1 or 2 days. It will take time because Iran had invested in a lot of infrastructure in different places. So it will take time, and we are patient. I don't think it. So we are estimating a few weeks. So it's difficult to say, but I do want to emphasize that This is not the time yet to talk about de-escalation because we're in the middle of this operation. And when we will feel that the mission has been accomplished and there's no threat to Israel, then of course we can talk about the next stages. But currently, Israeli civilians are still sitting in safety rooms, in shelters, and are patient because we understand the importance of this operation. And it will continue as long as we feel that we did not remove those imminent threats.
At this stage, Ambassador Fluss, how real is the threat of nuclear war?
I think this operation actually removed the threat of a nuclear war because Iran, as you understand, we launched this attack, this operation on Friday in order to make sure that Iran was very close to that capability. And they had already enough uranium for, according to estimates, 9 bombs. 3 of them, the enrichment of uranium, were done only in the last few months. So they were really racing towards that goal, and we have removed this threat. So again, I'm not an expert. I'm a diplomat, but it seems I don't expect to see a nuclear war. We are not there.
Okay, that's good to hear. Ambassador Fluss, energy and logistics are top of mind globally. Here in the Philippines, oil prices have already gone up. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital artery to the world. Global energy, 20% of the world's oil flows through that strait. How real is the risk to disruption there?
Well, I think, you need an energy expert, but according to, I was following a little bit about on this issue, of course, the prices of energy went a little bit up, and then I think yesterday or 2 days ago, they already went a little bit down because until now we are seeing that there's no real impact. The hormones, the movement is still free, so we don't see real interruptions currently now. And it seems that the markets are, of course, they're anxious, but at this stage they are stable and the supply continues. But of course, what will happen and what will the Iranian regime do is something that we cannot predict. I cannot predict. From the Israeli point of view, it is very important to say that we are very, very specific in what we are doing. We're not creating instability. We're not attacking anything that is not related to the nuclear program and to the ballistic missile program. We're focusing only on the imminent threat to Israel.
Okay, understood. Speaking of the imminent threat to the Philippines, how can we prepare? Malacanang is watching closely. From your perspective, what can the Philippines do to brace for the immediate economic and social impacts of this war and perhaps a protracted one?
Well, it's not my place to give advice how to manage an economy of a country. I can share the experience in Israel, and I can tell you that we are continuing in promoting business collaborations and activities, myself and of course other ambassadors, because economy needs continuity, the Israeli economy depends a lot on the international economy. We are an island country from that perspective of the economy. We need international connectivity, and we're certainly working in order to do it. We're seeing the Israeli economy, the Israeli stock exchange did not collapse. First day there was a little bit of going down, but it already went up again. So even we're in a war since October 7, 2023, the Israeli economy is proving itself to be very resilient. We continue to have, you just reported before about the big deal for $13 billion in Israeli startup. An Israeli company was sold to Google for $23 billion just a few months ago. So we're seeing that even with this war or certain level of instability, if you're focusing on the core strengths of your economy, things will continue.
Mm-hmm. Onto the OFW front, Ambassador Fluss. There are about 2 million OFWs in the Middle East. How many now are in Israel. And note, these are the people who opted to stay even despite the war with Hamas. Now there is the war with Iran. Do you see these numbers of Filipinos in Israel decreasing by much? And what are those numbers as of today?
So it's important. This is a very important question. The war or this operation is very, very focused. We are not targeting civilians, and we have informed the civilians who are close to military establishments that are connected to the operation to move from those areas. So I don't think the Filipinos in other places are under attack. Of course, Israel, the civilian population is under constant attack of Iran, but we put in place the safety mechanisms that are helping both Israelis and OFWs and Filipinos alike. We have a 10 minutes warning when a ballistic missile is launched towards Israel. We have all the systems in place. We have an early warning. We have 10 minutes in order to get into a safe room or into a shelter. People get this by SMS. There is an app. And of course, there are sirens who go on 1.5 minutes before the missile might fall. And we have all the systems to predict where will be the area that it might fall. So it's very, very precise. Filipinos in Israel are following the same protocols and procedures as any other Israeli. They are part of our families, part of our community. From what I hear, most Filipinos, most OFWs, including the caregiver of my father-in-law, feel safe. They're feeling okay. They're not in panicking. Of course, there are some OFWs who have requested to be repatriated. According to figures I have since the October 7 attack by Hamas against Israel, we have close to 1,200 OFWs who have requested to be repatriated. Most of them basically ended their contracts. From what I understand this week, there's going to be another small group of OFWs who will be going back to the Philippines, assisted by the Philippine government. I had a coordination meeting yesterday with Secretary Kakdak. The Israeli government, of course, will facilitate, will help. And maybe just one word, because you mentioned before in the report regarding the two groups, the 21 Filipinos who were in Israel, and they were in Israel. They are, part of them were a delegation of mayors and local government officials. Others came from the agricultural sector. They were in Israel for both two different study visits, because Israel has a lot to offer to the Philippines, and we're looking for a lot of collaborations. They were our guests. We took care of them. We made sure that also when they're staying in the facility was safe, sort of from Friday morning, and where the Israeli government has facilitated their passage into Jordan and through Jordan. We have bought the tickets. This was fully sponsored by the Israeli government, and we took responsibility to help them make the way from the training areas or from the hotel where they were staying all the way back to Manila. This is our responsibility, being a country which is hosting those officials. And we, of course, all of this was done in coordination with the Philippine embassy and Philippine government.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we are looking forward to that time when peace returns so that we can really focus on strengthening the bilateral relations between the two nations. On another front, Ambassador Floss, your time here in the Philippines ends in July. How is the transition process coming along? And what are the priorities that are going to be maintained to strengthen Philippine and Israel ties as we shift to a new leadership at the embassy?
Well, I know very well my successor, a woman ambassador, and she's very capable, and she has a lot of experience in the foreign service. I think she will, in a way, will see continuity from one side, but of course, each person brings new agendas. Also, the things, the challenges and the policies here change, and we will adopt it, and also from the Israeli side. But I can just give you one example. We just had a meeting just earlier this morning with Converge, with Mr. Denis Uy, looking at future opportunities, and we are not stopping. Sort of, as I said before, the wheels of economy are slow, but we have to continuously work in creating those partnerships and establishing business relationships. So for sure, there will be a continuity in our approach to the Philippines, which is, from one side, of course, we have government collaborations in different sectors, but the very important element here is private sector, and to have joint ventures and private sector interactions in order to identify opportunities. And we'll focus again, and I always say that Israel is a country of innovation and technology. And my agenda when I came here, my vision is building bridges of innovation and technology between Israel and the Philippines, introducing solutions that we have in Israel and adapting them to the challenges in the Philippines. We have seen this already bearing fruit. We have seen different projects which are, for an example, in food security and agricultural productivity, which is a vision of the president, and we are joining this vision, and we're already seeing joint ventures who are contributing in this direction. And I can tell you that my successor will continue in this direction.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Ambassador Elon Fluss. As they say in Hebrew, Atoda Rabba. And may peace be with you, Israel, the region, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and shalom.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most, your bottom line. Welcome back. Global financial markets closed mixed overnight after the Fed kept rates steady at the end of its policy meeting. The Fed also signaled rate cuts this year, but at a slower pace than before.
I don't think any of this was a surprise. We know the Fed's worried about tariff inflation. We know the Fed's worried about stagflation, a slowing economy with rising inflation.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 0.1%. The S&P 500 closed flat with a downward bias. The Nasdaq edged higher by 0.1%. Now, over in Europe, markets were mixed there too. The FTSE 100 increased by 0.1%. Germany's DAX lower by 0.5%, and France's CAC 40 lower by 0.4%. Let's check on how Asian markets are doing this Thursday morning. Take a look at the region. The Nikkei 225 is in the red, down by 0.8%. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index down by as much, down by 0.8% as well. Shanghai Composite down by 0.3%, and Singapore Straits Times Index down by 0.2%. Now, taking a look at our market, here at home, Philippine shares fell on Wednesday as investors stayed cautious amid escalating Middle East tensions and ahead of the BSP's rate decision today. BSE index slipped 0.5% to 63.37. Turnover was thin at just 5.3 billion pesos, as many traders chose to wait and see if the BSP would really cut rates today. Now, with volatility abroad and uncertainty here at home, analysts expect the market to stay defensive in the near term unless the BSP signals a clear path for more easing. Right now, as of 10:31 this morning, the main gauge is trading flat with an upward bias at 63.40. The broader all shares index is in the red, while flat with a downward bias at 37.70. As for the sub-indices, the financials, property, and services are lifting the market, while the industrial holding firms and mining and oil counters are in the red. Now, total volume is at 321 million shares, valued at a little under 1 billion pesos. Market breadth is negative, with 71 decliners, 62 advancers, and 43 stocks unchanged. At the currency market, the peso opens weaker at 57.10 against the greenback, slipping from Friday's close of 56.98. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Eli Romolono Jr. says it is futile to intervene in the currency market to support the peso. The peso has fallen about 2% this month, mainly due to a strong U.S. dollar powered by safe haven flows. Asian currencies are under pressure this week as the escalating Israel-Iran conflict dents risk appetite. The peso slipped to 56.98 yesterday, marking its 7th consecutive day of losses. The Philippine Stock Exchange wants more overseas Filipinos to invest in the stock market. PSE President and CEO Ramon Monzon reveals that less than 1% of overseas Filipinos have stock market accounts. He says partnerships with government agencies are key to boosting retail investor participation. The PSE recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the Commission on Filipinos Overseas to launch programs that empower Filipinos abroad to engage in the capital markets. Digital payments are accelerating here in the Philippines, signaling a major shift toward a cashless economy that can boost financial inclusion and drive business growth. Online transactions through InstaPay and PesoNet almost hit 10 trillion pesos in the first 5 months of the year. Latest data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows this is nearly 40% higher than the 6.66 trillion pesos reported in the same period last year. Total transactions rose to 1.21 billion from January to May, more than double the 545 million lodged in the same period in 2024. This rapid growth reflects Filipinos' fast adoption of digital finance, a trend that can lower transaction costs, increase business efficiency, and drive economic inclusion across the country. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set to head to Osaka, Japan to attend the World Expo, Malacanang confirms. The visit will feature business meetings and a tour of the Philippine Pavilion, Woven, which highlights our country's rich tradition of weaving. This trip follows an invitation from Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba extended during their April meeting. The World Expo, running until October 13th this year, showcases innovations, culture, and cuisine from 160 countries and regions around the world. The Bureau of Internal Revenue is open to adjusting its revenue target as the Philippine economy shows signs of slower growth in the first quarter. This matters because government revenue directly impacts public spending, infrastructure projects, and social services. BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi says the target may be reevaluated as tax collections depend on the health of the economy. The current revenue goal for 2025 is set at 3.2 trillion pesos, a 13.36% increase from last year, but this could be lowered if economic growth remains weak. To improve collections, the BIR is promoting a digital track and trace system aimed at curbing counterfeiting and boosting tax compliance. Lumagi says the Bureau is pushing to meet targets while the new system awaits final approval. Over a dozen logistics firms are teaming up with the Trade Department to improve the flow of goods across the Philippines, a key step toward easing supply chain bottlenecks and supporting business growth. Here's Sujin Kim with that story.
The Department of Trade and Industry has launched the Supply Chain and Logistics Center, a major initiative aimed at driving down logistics costs across the country. Some of the Philippines' largest freight carriers, including To-Go, Airspeed, LBC, Maersk, and Philippine Airlines Cargo, have pledged support for the program, which targets a more coordinated, efficient delivery of goods across the archipelago.
Sobrang importante ang supply chain and logistics, especially that we are 7,600 islands. It's very difficult for us if we don't work together aggressively and very strongly on making sure that we get especially the food and other non-food items from point A to point B, especially when there are calamities.
As a first step, DTI unveiled a hotline and portal designed to give MSMEs real-time access to support.
MSMEs can now access real-time support for freight inquiries, service referrals, regulatory guidance, and definitely more. And of course, right at their fingertips.
Together with logistics providers, the government hopes to empower MSMEs, streamline supply chains, and strengthen the country's logistics sector.
But as we all know, with the geographical challenges that we face in the country, as well as the volatile global trade, we understand that supply chain can be complex and even more challenging. In partnership with DTI, we aim to simplify global trade, support local growth, and help Filipino brands go global so business can focus on what they do best, growing and thriving.
With this partnership, we believe we can support more on a bigger scale. Therefore, we're fully committed to support you. And this event is also timely as we had our rebrand a couple of days ago.
PMTLI is well positioned to support government initiatives aimed at enhancing trade facilitation, reducing logistics cost, and modernizing countries' transport infrastructure. Together, we can build a more agile, efficient, and globally competitive Philippine logistics ecosystem.
Meanwhile, Secretary Roque addressed how the restricted passage at the San Juanico Bridge, she clarified, should not justify any price hikes.
As long as there's a problem with the San Juanico Bridge, they will have no price increase for this. So, if the movement and the flow is okay naman, there's really no need for price increase kasi they also understand that nahihirapan din ang consumers. So, to move the goods, they already have the equipment anyway. They already have the transportation, they already have the people. All they need to do is to just move it. So, I don't see any reason for any price increase.
But freight companies warn that they can only absorb so much. Some, like Fast Logistics, say they can cover added costs internally up to a certain limit, around 5 to 6%.
That's why we need more RoRo ports. Right now, they cannot charge back those extra costs, then we're in the same plight. Yeah. But again, as a logistics company, we cannot absorb everything. We need to find ways to share the cost.
The government earlier said it could take over a year to complete repairs at the San Juanico Bridge, making coordination and cost management even more crucial for the supply chain industry. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. The Philippine Economic Zone Authority approves 4 new economic zones, a significant boost for the country's industrial and digital sectors. 2 zones will focus on manufacturing, while the other 2 will target the IT industry. President Bongbong Marcos has given the green light for the expansions at the Lima Technology Center in Batangas and new IT parks in Tagbilaran City, Bohol, and Bacolod City, Negros Occidental. PEZA Director General Tereso Panga says these eco zones are crucial to drawing investments, creating jobs, and driving the Philippines' socio-economic growth. Key as the country pushes to strengthen its manufacturing base and digital economy in a competitive global landscape. President Bongbong Marcos says fuel subsidies could soon help those hit hardest by rising oil prices, a threat looming larger with Middle East tensions escalating. He reminded us that the government did this during COVID and warned that if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, oil prices could soar. The strait handles more than 1/6 of global oil and a third of the world's liquefied natural gas.
The subsidies that we have always given, fuel subsidies, that we gave to, if you remember during the pandemic, lalong-lalo na yung mga nagpapasada, yung mga para may hanap buhay naman sila, bigyan natin ng fuel subsidies. Now we will have to do the same for those who are severely affected.
The Department of Energy is ready to launch subsidies for transport operators and farmers, aiming to soften the blow of higher fuel costs on basic goods and services. The Department of Agriculture reassures Filipinos that fertilizer supply is steady, even amid the tensions in the Middle East. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tu Laurel Jr. says the country has enough stocks to last until the end of the year, despite shipping challenges linked to the Israel-Iran conflict. He also notes alternative sources like Russia and Brunei are ready to fill any gaps. While higher oil prices may push costs up a bit, Tu Laurel says fertilizer and agri-commodity prices won't spike dramatically. The Department of Economy, Planning and Development, formerly NEDA, has approved a 10-year extension of concession agreements with Maynilad and Manila Water. This decision secures access to safe, reliable, and affordable water for millions in Metro Manila and the nearby provinces. The extension from July 2037 to January 2047 also brings the contracts in line with the legislative franchises of both concessionaires. The move aims to accelerate crucial capital investments and help minimize future tariff increases, a win for consumers and businesses alike. Long-term water security is vital for sustaining Metro Manila's growth and attracting investments. The extension is projected to generate over 50 billion pesos in additional government revenues, funds that can be used to support infrastructure and social programs. The House of Representatives spokesperson, lawyer Princess Abante, fires back at Vice President Sara Duterte's claim that lawmakers were bribed to sign her impeachment complaint.
Naniniwala ako na yung 200 plus na congressmen na pumirma doon sa impeachment ay pumirma hindi para sa halaga o anumang pabor na makukuha, pero para sa paninindigan, sa sarili nilang paninindigan. Baka masyado na silang nasanay na lahat ng galaw ng kanilang mga kampe ay kailangan may bayad.
Abante challenges the Vice President to present solid evidence to back up her allegations.
Siguro dapat maging klaro tayo dun sa mga paratang na ganyan. Hindi pwedeng dinadaan lagi sa intriga yung mga ganitong aligasyon.
She insists it is the Senate's constitutional duty to proceed with the impeachment trial and reminds senator judges to maintain impartiality throughout the process. House spokesperson Attorney Princess Abante hopes that the 20th Congress will pass a law to punish those who create and spread fake news. This comes after Senator Bato de la Rosa shared an AI-generated video featuring Filipino students allegedly defending Vice President Sara Duterte amid impeachment discussions. Abante said it is disappointing that a public official would spread misinformation.
Hindi ba dapat automatic to sa ating pag-perform ng ating duties na katotohanan ang uunahin, hindi panlilin lang? So siguro yun muna yung kailangan natin hilingin na sa bawat public official, regardless kung ano yung political affiliation, that we propagate truth, not false information.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte's request for interim release from the International Criminal Court faces strong opposition from the families of the drug war victims. In an interview on BNC's Agenda, attorney Neri Colmenares, representing victims' families, said they will formally oppose the request, arguing that Duterte cannot be trusted to appear at trial or to protect witnesses from intimidation. The ICC's pretrial chamber will decide based on Article 58 of the Rome Statute, which sets conditions for approving interim release requests. Colmenares added that they will submit their opposition soon, even if the ICC does not formally request it.
Sana naman i-consider ng ICC ang opinion ng biktima kasi ang samang mensahe, Pinky, pag ma-release si President Duterte, parang inuna pa siya, ang convenience niya inuna pa kaysa sa kalagayan ng mga biktima na hindi man lang nagkaroon ng hustisya sa ilalim ng halos 8 taon na matapos nang sila namatayan ng kaanak ang karumal-dumal na krimen.
In other news, the United States added over 1,000 new millionaires daily last year, according to the latest global wealth report from UBS. In 2024, more than 379,000 Americans crossed the $1 million threshold, powered by strong markets and a stable dollar. The U.S. now makes up nearly 40% of all millionaires worldwide, solidifying its position as the global leader in wealth creation. Globally, net worth rose 4.6%, but the majority of adults, over 80%, hold less than $100,000. UBS forecasts this wealth growth to continue for the next 5 years, with the U.S. and Greater China driving that surge. Nippon Steel finalizes its deal to buy 100% of U.S. Steel. The companies announced Wednesday that they have completed that partnership. Under the terms of the deal, Nippon will buy U.S. Steel for $55 per share, equivalent to more than $14 billion. The company will also retain its name and headquarters in Pennsylvania. But under the final deal, the U.S. government still has a say in key decisions on how the company will be run. That includes giving President Donald Trump veto power over any decision to idle plants or staffing levels. People must not get used to war. That urgent message coming from Pope Leo XIV amid the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel. During his weekly audience at the Vatican, the pontiff added that the use of scientific weapons in modern warfare risks producing more atrocities than in the past. He says the church's heart breaks over the cries coming from war-torn areas, especially in Ukraine, Iran, Israel, and Gaza.
In fact, since scientific weapons of all kinds are used in today's warfare, its atrocity threatens to lead the combatants to a barbarity far greater than in times past. Therefore, in the name of human dignity and international law, I repeat to those responsible what Pope Francis used to say: war is always a defeat. And as Pius XII used to say, nothing is lost with peace. Everything can be lost with war.
Elsewhere in the world, Copenhagen reactivates its green tourism initiative, Copenpay, for a second year. The program rewards tourists who embrace environmentally friendly habits with free services and discounts. Activities like biking and cleaning the city's canals and harbor earn visitors rewards, such as free boat rides, bike rentals, or meals. Since its launch last year, participating companies have grown from 26 to 97. New perks are now available for tourists arriving by train or electric car, including guided tours and discounted entry to major attractions.
Copenhagen aims at inspiring and nudging travelers to make more conscious choices when they travel. And Copenhagen rewards, for instance, visitors and locals who bike or take public transportation or pick up litter or eat vegetarian meal. And actually this year we also reward visitors who come or who arrive here by train or electric cars or stay more than 4 days here, stay longer.
And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel.